the struggles when you're a minority. Oh, hey, hi, folks.
I'm not a minority.
That's right.
Well, I guess I am in my own mind. Do you think it's worse for a minority?
He's a legend. That's what we're going to talk about.
Tune in to
21.6 the net.
I could stay
There we
really
go.
hit this response. Hit this one.
You got to do the dance, though.
Yes, you got to do this. You got to do the
Dance.
Kent Jones. The Kent?
There's a Kent.
That is.
The Kent.
It's my favorite part.
It's a clap and slap. That's right.
Gentlemen.
Thanks, God. Welcome in 21.6 the net. Thanks for getting caught in the net this morning. This, of course, is Bridging Civil Tension, where we think it's better to build a bridge, stand on it, and talk, love each other, instead of blowing them up. He's Phil Wallace. I'm Kent Jones. The guy with us this morning,
Man of the hour.
man of the hour, Tim Santos.
Yes, sir.
Of Health Markets, the Santos agency right downtown, Green Street, here in McHenry. How do they get in touch with you?
Oh, shit. They can find us on Green Street, or I wasn't prepared for that. Healthmarkets.com/tsantos. All your information will be there. Follow us on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
That is beautiful. Look at the fade out. Yes. Happy 4th of July weekend to you both.
Super excited.
Got some good stuff to talk about today. So really, you and I have for about, almost a year now, right? Been talking about, the civil tension in America.
It's been a year.
Yeah. And which is fantastic. And for the hundreds of thousands of people listening, and thanks, we are the number 4th listened to show on the station.
Yeah.
So that's
Wah, wah, wah.
hey, you're right. That
See
is
if we
good
can get
stuff.
up to number 3 after today.
Yes. So what we've gone around, we've irritated a lot of people, which is wonderful, and created some good conversations. I've learned a ton. You've learned a ton.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're just like, you're an entrepreneur, I'm an entrepreneur, and let's start bringing in people who are successful entrepreneurs, but have struggles, and because they're not perhaps Anglo-Americans, right? Yeah, right.
They don't. All these ones don't wear New Balances.
The white ones, the white and blue, right? Yeah. That reminds me of a meme I saw. The guy was trying on new ones, and it's like, and the white American male sheds his skin, and he's putting.
I think I seen one where a guy was taking off his grass stained New Balances and putting on fresh New Balances.
Yes.
Same color.
The navy blue ones.
Yes. White and navy blue.
And now we, us middle-aged white folk, right? Now are saying we're not that, but we get the Nikes that look just like them.
They're called the Air Monarch. That's what they're called. Yes.
Good for you guys.
You can get those at Kohl's.
I don't know. I'm not that guy. But I'll take the ones that look just like with the swoosh.
Actually, one of my favorite ex-Bears, Spice Adams. I follow him on, and he's always talking about when he's creamy bigums.
Yeah.
He's always wearing his Air Monarchs.
That's hilarious.
So
we did in the playoffs where he's in the orange.
Oh, yeah.
In the grass.
Yes, he's got the Air Monarchs on.
So what we said is let's start really focusing on success, and as we talk about bridging civil tension, is that as a minority you have to work hard. I'm not saying twice as hard or anything, but you have to work hard, but there are still some hurdles and things that you have to overcome as a minority business owner, right? So you're in a business, insurance, that basically nobody understands or wants to talk about, but they'll always argue about it or whatever.
Right? Absolutely. So, I'm half Mexican, half Italian or whatever my father was. I don't know. I'm assuming just on my body figure that it was something along those lines.
Yes.
Italian. I love
The olive color.
I love spaghetti, so it's got to be inverted, right? But you know what? I'm going to go way back. Well, way back to 1998 when I first moved to McHenry as a 16-year-old kid from Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is, when you live in Kenosha, you call it Kenowhere, like it's the middle of nowhere, right? But actually, when you get outside of Kenosha, it's actually a pretty big city with like inner city style of living.
Yeah.
A lot more minority people there than you're going to find in McHenry. I called it Mayberry. I was like, Mom, why are you moving me to Mayberry? Like, it's crazy. And I went to when they took me to East Campus to walk through when I was with the principal. He actually was very proud of the fact that the Hispanic population was only 0.2 something, and African American was even less than that.
Wow.
So when I went to high school here, there was, I call it the 2.5 Mexicans. My two best friends, Ralph and Ernie, who are still dear friends to me to this day, and me, 2.5. There was no one else.
That was it.
Maybe, actually, I take that back. There was one guy, he was like, spoke Spanish only. And then no black people at East Campus, period. Not while I was there.
Right.
So
The only one I knew of was Spencer from West Campus.
I think there was one person. Yes, I didn't go to West Campus, but it's funny because Spencer would be the black friend. Like, I'm not racist because I have a black friend.
Right.
Spencer. Right.
I had McHenry friends. I'd hear that one.
Yeah. So, and I didn't.
We keep a list. We know.
Yeah.
You may not, just looking at me, may not realize that I'm Hispanic or whatever, and especially as a teenager, a lot of things are said or
more
like,
I'd
don't really feel like you're offending me in any sort of way. But that very first day of being in McHenry, walking through the school and having the guy kind of be so proud of the fact of the minimal minority that was in McHenry and in the school system, I was like, I mean, my mom looks Hispanic completely. I'm like, do you even understand what you're doing? So just coming into this town at that time, it was very eye-opening to the world that I was now walking into. Right. Never really seen tie-dye shirts before until I moved to McHenry. Yep. Never heard of Dave Matthews Band until I moved to McHenry.
Or Incubus.
Now, hey, I love Incubus, though.
I like them, but coming from Florida?
Right. They're actually one of my favorite bands ever.
Yeah,
but, coming from Kenosha City, very much, rap, gangster rap, that type of music is what I was into. And, every weekend the teenagers would be like, hey, we're going to go see Dave at Alpine. I'm like, who the hell is Dave?
Right.
Dave Matthews. What are you talking about?
Dave's not here.
You would think that I would have seen maybe more dreadlocks no, it was only the white kids here at McHenry wearing their tie-dyes and their puka shell.
Yeah, that was big.
Necklaces and stuff like that. So anyways, as a kid, got into the restaurant, business at KFC. That's where I met my wife. She actually gave me my application. She was a shift supervisor there. And
worked your way up that ladder, didn't you?
Yeah,
literally.
There you go. But I never really ever thought I would be my own business owner. Definitely not insurance. I did food and a restaurant business. I thought maybe if anything, that's what I would get into. But having children, that's not the type of hours I want to be working. So I became, after 20 years of restaurant work, started my own health insurance business, which, in all honesty, myself, I can't say that I've personally encountered any sort of interactions or bigotry or whatever because of who I am. Right. I mean, you're sitting across from me, like everyone gets the same respect. It don't matter who you are. And you walk into my office and got smoking hot white wife sitting there. So everyone's immediately comfortable. Right. And then I kind of sit in the back or whatever. And the only times that maybe there's been any sort of feelings would be not dealing with me directly, but there's like this comfortability. Like I really will let you can say whatever you want to me, and I feel free to say kind of whatever I want to you. Sometimes that level of comfort will make people feel like they can they can say things, even hateful things, and not think that I'm going to be offended because they don't think that they're talking to me. What they don't realize is I'm one of maybe 4 and only half Caucasian in my family. Everyone else is Hispanic or black. Right. So when you want to say your bigotry type of feelings about this X, Y, and Z or whatever it is, you are offending me deeply. My nieces and nephews are all Mexican and African American. I don't even need to get into it. Number one, I don't care who you're talking about. Like, watch your mouth.
Right.
I don't really care for that type of conversation anyways. But so occasionally we'll just get someone who gets super comfortable and then they kind of let their true colors show sometimes in conversation.
Sure. And so your family, does it have entrepreneurs in it in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. So my own sister, she has a 9-to-5 job, but she sells paparazzi jewelry. Is like it's her own little business that she sells. She's got like a clothing line that she does. My cousin Andre is a personal trainer as well as a mechanical engineer. And my aunt Yolanda is the head of the NAACP in Kenosha, as well as the president of the school board.
We need to get her on the show.
Right.
Oh yeah. So, and we're all very proud of who we are, and I'm proud of them, and they're proud of me, and as entrepreneurs in our family, and we definitely share each other's success and help promote each other. And actually, my cousin Andre also has the deadlift record in Wisconsin. He's like a big bodybuilder, and he goes to the Arnold Classic or whatever it is, and he performs and does stuff like that too. So outside of being super intelligent,
right?
He's very successful.
Hey, I need to move my smart car. You mind?
He's for me? Sweetest guy in the world, but I mean, just looking at him, he's like he can just snap you in half. And not even think twice.
So here's what and he does a great job. I've done business with him. If you need answers on any health insurance issues, Tim and Sally are absolutely the best around. And they educate you real well, which is cool. So Health Markets, Santos agency in McHenry, look them up. It's good. So you have how many kids?
Three,
and you have one, right? So how important is your heritage, history, and looking at things to teach your kids, hey, we're a little bit Italian, we're a little bit Mexican, and this is it? Or do you just go, you guys will figure it out?
You know what? We are kind of you'll figure it out. We're here to answer any questions and to guide you, and there's no topic, off limits with us. We're to talk about it, whatever you want. My son, who's 14, is definitely more in tune with what's going on in the world, right? Especially over the past couple of years with when Kenosha was burning and all this stuff. He's wondering what's going on. Is my aunt okay? My sister all my family still lives in Kenosha. So very concerned about that. And as well as, there was like a lot of people putting yard signs, and it was
really.
And he wanted to know, like, can we put there was like a George Floyd sign and things in the yard, and can we put this in the yard? I'm like, well, I don't even know where to get them here in McHenry, but I don't mind.
Can you?
I don't know.
Again, we don't know. That's right.
Right. So, but he's very much, he has questions about things, but he's also super intelligent. He's an old soul, and he understands that, the world we live in is just, it's not fair to everybody. Right. And he's actually looking forward to having, critical race theory taught. Look, for education. There's a lot of school is all theories, right? Some can be scientifically proven, although I personally feel science was man-made and the results are man-made and the tests are man-made to prove what you want it to prove.
And we choose to believe them.
And it's all a theory. So the idea that there's an uproar and people are very concerned about this being taught in schools, well, you don't give a shit that they're teaching X, Y, and Z about how he came to be. Why can't you allow your children to have some form of education about the world that they're currently living in and how we got to where we're at?
Yeah. So
he's actually looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the conversations we're going to have because I know he's going to have questions.
So as we look at that, and we talked a little bit about critical race theory last week, there's still, huge outrage on this.
There's a teacher who tried to sue the school in Evanston.
Yeah.
She didn't agree with what's being taught because she said they were teaching white hate for just when to start to teach critical race theory.
Yeah. There's another, as a gentleman, he's a black teacher at a high school, same thing. And he went crazy because he's like, No, he's not a teacher. He's a doctor. He's got like 2 doctorate degrees. He's a medical doctor, African American, and he's like, you can't teach these kids just because they're white they have it better. Hey, I grew up, I got out of the city, so he's telling his story, and he's mad about it. And I think the only issue I have at some places is they're separating, they're segregating, and so the white kids go to this classroom to learn it, and the black kids go to this classroom.
Yeah,
That's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
haven't heard that.
And I'm like, no,
that's
just
that's no one.
I'm just let them stay together, and let's learn this together. I mean, that's the problem is, now I go, man, we're going back to the 60s if you're segregating what, so it's crazy. And again, it's been around since the 90s. I'm excited for it too, because it does open up. Now, it sounds like you handle your kids the same way I do. Every chance I have an opportunity to talk to my kids and have a good discussion, I do. I don't just go, well, whatever you learned, great, to bloop, bloop, remote control. It's like, hey, let's talk about that. I mean, my Lucy, my 6th grader, going into 7th grade, she came home and, hey, we learned about this. And I'm like, okay, well, did you learn about the other side of the coin? What about, and this was back in February. It's like, okay, what about African American history did we learn today?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I said, so they didn't, did they talk about,
Yeah.
Well, let's look it up. Let's see, what happens. And then I go, if it was me, I'd raise my hand and go, what about this side of the coin?
Yeah.
She won't, right?
Yeah.
Come on, do it.
Like, let's
What'd you
push
have
it
as a
on.
14-year-old student, though? Or did you just not even think, like, this is just what they're teaching
No,
you?
I was that kid.
Yeah.
I've always been that way. Like,
I've been outspoken myself too, but I've also always had like the thought that what you're learning in school is really, it's a curriculum that's developed for you to learn X, Y, and Z so you can pass tests, you can get this grade.
That's it.
Your
So
real
money
learning comes outside in the real world.
Right. That's what I say.
Yeah, really just kind of like, and I'm like, I wish that people had such a negative thought through the math that they teach. They don't teach 4 + 4 = 8 anymore. It's this, I forget what it's even called, but my
Common Core.
Common Core. Like, what the hell is that? It's an uncommon way of doing math. No one does it that way. I don't understand it.
All right, so well, we can get it. That's a whole different show.
Anyways, but the point being is that here they're teaching you a fundamental way that we've all been taught to do math, and it's totally like makes sense. 1 + 1 = 2.
Right. Yeah,
and
there's
they're
one
creating
apple,
a new
there's
way
2.
of doing. But there was no outrage.
Yeah.
Over just the total dismantling of it. Anyways.
Well, there's outrage. They just swear at the kids that I don't know how to do this yet.
So the fact that I got to Google a math answer for my kid instead of showing him this is how you can do it is weird.
So in your growing up in a very cultural city, Kenosha, to Whiteville, right? Yeah. What was the shock? I mean, how'd you get through that? Or are you just like, whatever, man? I'm just.
It was hard for me to actually deal with the move here. I found myself going back to Kenosha like as often as I could, and like the stories I would share, like, dude, these people, like, do you know who the fuck Dave is? I don't know. Anyways, it was just like so odd, and I would bring my friends from McHenry, like, dude, come on, I got to show you. We got to go see my cousin. Like, you got to go see where I come from, because you're gonna be shocked. I wasn't that shocked. It was just kind of like I went back in time. I felt like I went from like to the movie Dazed and Confused. Like everyone's smoking weed and everyone's a hippie and we're having bonfires in the middle of the woods with kegs and we're 16. Like, how is this even? How is this happening?
Why am I?
It was just. It wasn't a shock. It felt really odd.
So were you an athlete? I mean, so you're well known. I was talking with some people, and I remember Phil. And I'm like, because I was talking about the show. Oh yeah, he was the only black guy.
My mom would play like Guess Who, because my mom's fair skin. My mom's lighter than you.
Okay,
right. So when you think of who Anne Marie's son is, you don't think Phil. She's like, oh yeah, my son plays for something. Well, he's tall. He's kind of muscular. Got a mustache over here. Black one. Oh, Phil, why did you say so?
Oh,
That puts all the other pieces. Yeah, right. Okay, I know you're talking
number
about.
34. Right.
Yeah, no trying out for sports, nothing like that. That was never my deal.
Not a skateboard kid or
No, nothing like that. Just pretty laid back. Like I was very inclusive of everybody. So if you were gothic, if you were preppy,
Right.
if you were
whatever
you were, like we're cool. So I just was. If you were a jock, because like we were cool.
Right.
But I just started working. I was working here as much as I could, and that was what I did. So
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I have a question as far as like you said on the sales side, when you're doing your health and you're sitting down with different clients,
Mhm.
does it ever surprise you who says the comments that are that hateful or that derogatory?
No, I'm not surprised that it comes out of our mouth. By the time we get to that point, it's already kind of pretty clear. I'm just more surprised that it's been said. For example, Polish father and son, right? And the Polish dad is very Polish. I could barely even understand what he was saying. Got a little bit of dementia going on, very like repetitive. So his son is there, kind of helping translate and piece things together. Through this, maybe the 3 appointments that I had with this guy, and through each appointment, he's kind of getting a little bit more comfortable. And he makes X comment about working in the city in this union, and these types of people start working there, and that's how he lost his job, his union job. So we're doing an application, and like, okay, I'm going to need your social security number. And the guy's like, I'm not giving you my social security number. And the son says, yeah, because some fucking Mexican stole his identity. And I'm like mid-application, and I just stopped typing. And Sally, who's 6 foot, blonde, blue eyes, she actually is the one who says, excuse me, but do you realize who you're speaking to? And do you realize you're sitting in the Santos agency? That is a Hispanic name, obviously. That's very offensive for you to take that tone in here. And I was like, do I even finish this?
Right.
He apologized immediately for it. And I'm thinking though, also, so one of my good friends, the other from the 2.5 Mexicans, his parents was the next appointment, and both full Spanish, broken English.
Do you want them to come in?
They could have been sitting
there,
in there. And I'm thinking like, how do I handle that? Right. Do I continue doing business with this person? Am I going to continue doing business because no one overheard what they just said? But if they were sitting in the waiting room and they heard that, is it like, do I continue? Right. So luckily I wasn't put in that position to think about that. We were halfway through the application. He apologized. So I felt like, okay, we're good. Just don't do that here. Just not the place for that.
You put your gun back.
Yeah.
No.
It was just odd that he took that he felt comfortable enough in the environment that he was sitting in to just say that.
And I don't know if it's comfortable. It's just idiot. It's just being stupid. It's an idiot. It's a bigotry thing. Right?
Well, we were having a conversation in the green room just about like, well, this guy was from the South, so blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So some people think, well, because I'm not from the South, or because I'm not this class, that I don't say racial things. You do. Mm-hmm. You're just sneaky about it. And you say those types of things around people that you feel that you can get away with it.
Right.
I'm assuming that you're not Hispanic.
Well, right. I mean,
I can say
you've got olive and blue eyes. I mean, serious killer blue eyes, right?
I was going to ask you
gay,
respectfully, like, what are you? Because I was like, I heard Santos, and I'm looking at an Italian, and I was like,
right.
Yeah. So the blue eyes, I'm not sure. It's I don't know my dad, my biological father.
Jesus.
I don't even think he had blue eyes. They just kind of came out of nowhere. So.
It's amazing,
yeah.
That's what I was thinking here too. I was just like, well, okay, I see the Italian.
A killer tan for a white guy. Like, yeah.
I was like, well, welcome.
Yeah, and that's interesting, and that's what I was going to say. Kind of going off of that is when this is your, and so people know. This is your agency. You built it to a point where your wife could leave her very successul career to work with you. So, I mean, really successful.
She doesn't make anything either, by the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, she does dinner.
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
No.
No. Hey, oh, hey.
Nope.
Actually, I keep her out of the kitchen. Actually, so I'm the cook as well.
There you go.
Yes.
So is there ever any, so you're interviewing a client or taking it, and they and they answer her because she's white?
No.
You haven't dealt with that.
I haven't dealt with that, not at all. Now they have turned. Now it's interesting. So, and it has nothing to do with race or anything. But again, I really like to keep it as personal as possible, and like you feel like we're just having a conversation. I don't like the robotic like questionnaire, and so it can get so comfortable where I actually had a guy hit on Sally in front of me, which was weird.
That is weird.
She's like, she's like, I'll see you at home soon. She was leaving the office. And he turned around and he said, I wouldn't mind going home to you. And he turned back and looked at me, and I don't think he knew I didn't say that she was my wife yet. And I said, well, before you go home to her, can you at least sign this application first? And like that's my wife, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry. And it was like that's not racial, but it's really odd that you would think that my assistant, that would be okay for you to even
say that, right?
Yeah, like would you just do that if you were sitting at Steph's office, like, hey, and stop and see one of her employees and say, I wouldn't mind going home to you, like.
I do go sit on the casting couch.
But even comments like that, like it's not, a person who probably makes that comment wouldn't say like, oh, I sexually harass women all the time. Right. I see myself as those types of individuals.
I am not.
I just make those comments that parallel the types of people who make the, people that you would categorize. And that,
I
don't understand.
So, I don't understand either. I'm just thinking now, like, okay, what if I wasn't the agent there? Because Sally's a licensed insurance agent. What if it was her that was talking with this guy? How far would he have taken their conversation? So, I mean, she could have been posed in an uncomfortable situation as being a female business owner, right? She's one half. She is a female business owner. So maybe not racial things, but the guy, his train of thought was probably looking down. Here's a female, right? I'm going to go ahead and make a pass at her on her way out of her place of business. It was just really awkward. And again, I try to humorize it. Here, can you sign this first before you go home with my wife?
And like I said, on Father's Day, I'm at the mall with Ashley and Colette, my two oldest daughters, and I'm blessed to just my kids are beautiful, absolutely, and strong women. They're very strong women. And we're walking in the mall, and there's a bench, so people are kind of sitting down. There's a couple brothers on the bench, and my daughters walk, like I'm behind them a few steps. And my daughters walk by, and this one brother just goes, follows my daughter. And there's another guy right here sitting right next to him. And I'm like, hey, those are my daughters. And the guy sitting next to the one who rubbernecked it just started laughing. Can you not? I was like, hey, those are my daughters. It was funny, but the look on the guy's face who didn't rubberneck was like, whoa. It was hilarious. So I get that, and when you're blessed, with a beautiful wife, and that's just the interesting thing is you're like, what makes a person say, but I'm sitting with my neighbors who will say, I'm not racial, and the N-word comes out, or the spick or whatever, right? Comes out, and I'm just sitting there like, because we have a mixed family that lives in our neighborhood, and it's Mexican and African American, and they keep to themselves. They got a pool, their kids are fine, whatever. When I say they keep themselves, it's not like they're out, having their dogs running people's yards. That's what I'm saying.
They keep to themselves as much as your Caucasian neighbors keep to themselves.
Right. But if we're out there like King of the Hill having a couple beers on the side of the road, and at that point, and I've said, hey, you guys, that's Mike over there. Watch the N-word around me. It's offensive to me.
Absolutely.
Or and I'm like, But if you ask them, no, I'm not at all. I'm not. But it just comes out so naturally. You're just like, just very bizarre. I think that and being an entrepreneur is tough, right? You own several businesses yourself, Phil, and just how how difficult is it? Maybe when you go to a convention or something like that, and you're surrounded by 90% Caucasian, and you're just like, huh.
It's not difficult for me at all to do stuff like. Matter of fact, I don't even do a lot of that stuff, to be honest with you. The conventions, the different sort of renting a table here or there. If that's how you're gonna grow your business, I mean, more power to you. Good luck.
Right.
But that, as an insurance agent, it's not necessary. Other than handing out a pamphlet here or there, like everyone's there for the free tchotchke stuff.
Right.
I don't give out tchotchke stuff. There's nothing I'm going to give out, but
we did get some good swag.
Yes, I invest in the swag. I'm gonna bring you some good stuff, not a keychain.
Right.
Right. Anyhow, but no, I don't really. The truth of the matter is, I don't really encounter a lot of that. But where the most of my feeling comes around being a business owner with a minority family, and is dealing with people who have those feelings, that feel comfortable enough to post on a community page, and wanting to tell them how I feel about it, but having that I'm a business owner. If I tell them how I feel about it, how is it going to impact my business?
Right.
Like, particularly through social media. A perfect example, it actually just happened this past week on one of the McHenry pages. A guy says, anyone see a 14-year-old, dark-skinned, fat-nosed, mop-haired Hispanic kid with a longboard? Yes, the guy says he honked at him to get out of the middle of the road, and this kid followed him into his driveway, must have had a knife because he kept grabbing his pocket. Didn't see a knife, but kept grabbing his pocket and was threatening this guy only because he honked at him to get out of the road. Now, my thought immediately is, okay, but if you're coming on, and it was determined it was a 14-year-old kid.
Right.
If you feel comfortable to get onto a McHenry's page and talk about a dark-skinned, fat-nosed, like, I think it's safe to assume when you honked at this kid, you didn't just, hey, son, can you get out of the road so you don't get hurt? You probably were slamming on your horn, saying, get the fuck out of the road. Right. And if you feel comfortable in your description to basically, like, paint this picture of this Hispanic kid, to me, it seemed, I don't think that if it was a Caucasian kid, you would have been like this fat-nosed, white-skinned, fair, whatever, like
blonde
there
hair.
Was like
blonde tipped,
right,
right.
So there was like this underlying comfortability that this person had, that I can go ahead and say this. This page has 17,000 followers. I can put this feeling out there. My thought was, number one, what if I did see that kid? Is this an attempt to rally your clan to go and find this kid to kick his ass?
Right.
What are you trying to do here? What it did do was paint a very ugly picture of how a lot of the people on it, I don't want to say a lot of people, because there was a handful of people on social media. Look, out of 17,000, only a handful of people actually chimed into this. But everyone bought into this guy is his side of the story.
Yeah.
Right. And I couldn't help but feel the only reason you're buying into his side of the story is because of, number one, who is telling the story, but two, the way he described the person.
Right.
Yeah.
Secondly, I guess the kid's father got on the phone with this guy and kind of told him, leave my kid alone, or whatever it was, blah, blah, blah. And the comments that followed after he disclosed that, well, that's some thug, and his father's obviously a piece of shit that doesn't know how to parent his kids, and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I'm like, whoa, the assumptions you guys are making based on the one side of this middle-aged Caucasian man talking about a Hispanic kid who had a knife because he kept grabbing his pocket without ever seeing a knife.
Which probably held his phone.
It could have been many different things. Right. But the idea that you were an angel about your concern about this kid skateboarding in the middle of the road.
Have you ever seen middle-aged people in traffic and their lack of patience?
Oh,
well, so, like you said, I've never really seen it be a tap-tap.
No,
not towards minorities.
I'm not that guy. I'm like, get the fuck out of the road.
Right.
So
towards minorities,
I don't care who it is. I don't care if white, Mexican, whatever it is.
Beat it.
But the real problem I had with it was my son is 14 years old, and he's Hispanic.
Right.
But what's on his side is he's not a dark-skinned, fat-nosed, mop-haired Hispanic kid. He looks like Sally.
Right.
But the idea that an adult would sit there and call out a community to be on the lookout for this child, I don't see that happening if that was my kid that did it.
Right.
I just and what was I had to fight with myself on do I express my opinion on this to this guy, or do I keep my mouth shut about it because he's just being ignorant? And obviously there's a whole gang of people that are kind of siding with him. And then what happens if that's like, hey, you're the guy that has the health insurance business on Green Street? Like, keyboard warriors and expressing your opinion on social media can definitely be taken many different ways, right? So what I did, my thought was, I'm going to just kind of talk to my son about it and
so, I mean,
keep my feelings to myself. And if I wasn't a business owner, I may have went ahead and just said what I felt, but I couldn't help but think of what could the impact be.
And where your business is located, you made the right choice.
I think so.
Because clearly he knows that we talked about this. People say things like that in places they feel comfortable. Well, they don't think they're going to be called out for those types of comments, right? So I know that I can make that type of comment on the McHenry community board because most people feel like this about minorities here, right? I think that you made the right choice because with that many people feeling that comfortable about hatred towards a 14-year-old kid, they'll very easily turn and say, okay, well, we're not going to go to you because you like them.
Yeah.
But you're like, I like us because I'm one of them.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And I go back to when I was a kid, right? Growing up, and my best friend was Filipino, and we were back in the days of BMX bikes, back in the 80s. So we were doing that. There weren't such things as longboards at that time. They were little skinny banana boards. So you would ride your bike, right? And we would ride all over the middle of the street. People would honk and get mad at us, you're like, as you're a stupid kid, you thought you were bulletproof. And it's interesting, right? It's one side, did the kid get out of the road and he's walking with his longboard up the sidewalk and you happen to get out of your car, and he's just like, man, and you start yelling. I mean, again, we don't know the whole side of the story because knowing me too, I'm that guy as well, like, God, geez, come on. And then if the kid's walking by at that point, I've been like, you better keep your ass out the street, that's how cows get hit.
Right.
And then it's like, what do the kids today are like, what did they're not afraid to respond back, and that might have thrown this guy. And
something tells me that if it was even just a laying on the horn, get out of the road, that the kid wouldn't have felt like I needed to walk in his driveway and like, who are you talking to? I mean, I don't know. There's more to that story.
There's more to that story. Always is. Right? Yeah.
I'm not saying that the kid's right for going to the guy's driveway by any stretch of the imagination, but you grew up in McHenry. As a minority walking around in Crystal Lake, sometimes things that you get yelled at to you are just mind blowing. So probably for that kid in Mexican and McHenry, the things that yelled at him, you might also have a breaking point where you're tired of people just feeling that they can just be over the top just because you are a minority and you're outnumbered and they feel entitled to say whatever they want to say to you. Just because you're doing the same thing that other kids who ride their bikes or whatever in the street all the time, to you, they go over the top with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, here's a good thing though, right? To me, as a dad, it obviously bothered the kid too enough to go home and tell his dad and his mom, like, God, man, I was cruising home and this guy flipped out or whatever, and it's like, all right, well, just chillax a little bit and, and see. Hey, Shana, good morning. Shane says, don't you think it's somewhat dangerous to qualify a response against a possible personal financial impact? I think this perpetuates the problem. People need to stand for what they believe in. I know that a bit Pollyanna, but how else do we stop it?
Right. So, no, I agree with your statement. I do want to stand for what I believe in. However, I do also know that social media is probably not the place to always
It may not be the right platform.
So I would love, like we talked about in an earlier show, the decency between neighbors when you're having a problem with a neighbor, to go ahead and instead of saying to the person that is blowing off fireworks or whatever in my neighborhood, please stop. You're not going to get anywhere with that.
Right.
Where you will get somewhere is you have that conversation in person. So I do believe in standing for what I believe in, but the environment that this guy had created with that post and the response from the other people on that page.
Sure.
If I shared what I believed in, typing it up, I wasn't going to get anywhere. I was just going to be attacked for my belief, for my thought of it. The financial impact, I'm sorry, but I do have to think about that because that's what pays my bills and what puts food on the table. So I'm not in a business of expressing my feelings that's going to compromise my business. Number one, whatever your beliefs are, I don't know those beliefs when you come and see me in my office, and I don't expect to always know them either. So you can believe what you want to believe. When I'm all inclusive, so I'll help everybody in any situation that I can. Regardless if you could be sitting across from me and the only reason you're sitting there is because we set the time and you had no idea that you were going to be talking to a Hispanic man. You could hate the fact that I'm even there, but I'm going to be professional about it and help you with your needs because that's the type of person I am. I can't help the type of person you are. And me expressing my feelings on social media in that sort of space and that sort of, it just was not going to be beneficial. It would have just egged me on because I know it would have been followed up with.
But is there that double standard, right? So, hey, I'm a white business owner, and I've been in conversations where I've been defending minorities because of this show, where the people that I talk to, you're just being the devil's advocate. No. Let's really talk about this. But as a white business owner, I can probably step out, and they will go, oh, that's Kent down there at the shoe store. He's always that way, that's just Kent. Where, well,
look, so another example,
Santos, right?
Another example has nothing to do with me and a much bigger business owner here in our community. There's a car dealer who put some sort of racial thing on his board, right?
Yeah.
That's what he believed in, whatever he stated, right? But due to the impact that it was going to have, he took it down.
Right.
So me as just me and my wife, and we do not have nearly the name nor reputation or the deep pockets to financially recover from maybe expressing some other, whatever.
Well,
you can stand for what you believe in. I agree, but there's also a time and a place, and typing things can be easily misconstrued or taken to a certain way that can impact you much further down the road than you want it to.
So we've got some good neighbors, and they have chickens, and the chickens started stinking up my backyard, So instead of going on social media and blowing up, I was out mowing the lawn one day, and my neighbor's out back doing whatever. I just said, hey, bro, I said, can you clean up that chicken? I mean, that smells kind of bad. He's like, I hate these fucking things. My wife loves it. But you know what he did? He got some hay, he cleaned it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go out there like, oh my God, all the people in the neighborhood that's got chickens, shit.
Yeah.
Hey, it's your yard, it's your life. You want chickens for pets or whatever, eggs, you get it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But if I've got a problem with you, I'm going to talk to you. I'm not going to try to blow it up on Facebook, no matter who you are, right? Yeah. And I mean, and it still stinks. But I know he doesn't like it. His wife likes these chickens, whatever. Okay.
That's what it is.
It is what it is. Stay out of the back corner. It makes my dogs go crazy too when those chickens are out walking around.
Yeah.
That was my chicken walk. I don't know what that was.
I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. It's like my dance at the beginning. It's very, very bad. So what about you? I mean, same way. You're a very successful business person. You're a very successful author. Would you have done the same thing?
I think my situation is a little different than Tim, respectfully, because you see what I am.
Right.
Where I was thinking, okay, this Italian guy, cool. Yeah. Right. You see what I am. So I know that you're going to feel this way regardless. So I'm going to say, this is how I feel. This is wrong because it's not going to change. When I worked for the newspaper company that is local, that is northwest west of Illinois. Right. I know how, when I went door to door for the newspaper company, who wouldn't even come to the door, who would talk to me through the side glass, who would lower the little screen thing and say, please, who, like, I'm on the front page. Like, you liked me a week ago.
Right.
Like,
Remember that?
and, you know, police get called or whatever. So I understand that I can't hide mine.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have to voice, and because I also think that because of how I've carried myself in the community, you can't write me off as just a dumb minority. Like, you can't write me off as just an ignorant black person. So if you've agreed with my intellect or anything like that, and then it's like, listen, I'm not irate about it. I'm just saying this is where you're wrong.
This is what it is. Right.
And this is how you're wrong. I'll be cool about
some of those, the disagreements though, right? Like, there's millions and millions of arguments and opposite views that happen on social media.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's probably 0 times that someone's opinion has been changed
0.
by you expressing yours. So in that particular situation, again, there wasn't anything I was going to say that was going to change the mindset of the post or anybody of the other. Right. So it would be basically me just saying you're wrong, and then having to deal with all the splashback for it, which to me, as someone who has come a long way and trying to like create this positivity bubble.
Yeah.
I really don't like negative stuff in my life anymore. And I get in trouble with the wife for even entertaining and like reading those comments and reading the additional comments from people. And I'm just like furious, and trust me, I want to. But I just can't entertain those types of people or thoughts because I know it's not going to get me anywhere. Yeah. But where it could get me is just it could impact my business. So I don't feel like that's the need to do it.
So you give a lot back to this community.
Mm-hmm.
You are a huge proponent of people on Green Street. You put together, hashtag Let's Meet on Green Street. And you've done a lot for this town, which is amazing. And that we have to make sure that we say that. And you got your hands in a lot of things. You are the chairman of the Rise Up Foundation, which is putting stuff together to make a splash pad for the community here.
Yeah.
So you do a ton of stuff, which is exciting. With your boys back home, right back in Kenosha, you've been here forever. Right?
Yeah,
more than half
I'm
your
more
life.
so a McHenry.
Yeah.
Person.
Did they ever go? Oh, you sold out. Now you're staying over there in Mayberry.
No. And a lot of that has to do with I just don't put up with that type of thought. So a lot of the it must be nice type of comments that people make. Like me and Sally like to enjoy our success and go this and that, and we have our camper and we travel. And there's a lot of people, obviously, I shouldn't even say obviously, there is a lot of people back home who have not had the same successful road. And I can say that had I stayed in Kenosha, there's a very strong likelihood that I would be along those same roads that some of my closest family has fallen victims to drug addiction and crime and different things like that. And it's all kind of about with the environment which you're a part of, right?
Yeah.
And at 16, part of my issue with McHenry was that I was leaving that environment. Like I actually enjoyed that. And I was never really in trouble with the police too much. I was smart enough to get out of situations before we got caught, whereas some other people were dumb enough to stick around, so I can't say that my hands are clean of a lot of things that have occurred.
Yeah.
But most of the people that have any sort of love for me still from there are very happy with the success that I've had.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, there has been some people that have, I've called brothers as friends that I met here in McHenry that have not been so happy with my success.
Haters. You always have
haters, man. Right? But people that I would have done anything for, and still to this day, because it's the type of person
probably still would.
I would still do anything for them, but we don't have any sort of relationship. And but most people are very happy, and because they seen the kid that I was, and are happy that I got out of this situation, even though it was forced upon me to get into a better situation. Yeah. So,
go ahead, Phil. You take this one. Shana, thank you.
If everyone takes the position that then social norms, right or wrong, stay the way that they are, it might be an ego thing with me, but it freaks me out when someone is racist in my space. It's as if they assume that I'm on the same caliber, call people out consistently, and people tend to keep keep it to theirself. It is my personal integrity that compels me to speak the truth. I do not have a business, so I do not have that angle to deal with and can see difficulties to an degree.
Yeah, you know what, and that's true. And Shayna, you kind of get the stink eye when I do too, and I'm like, oh man, geez, not around me, guys. You know, and if it happens again, I usually just get up and walk away because I'm like, you know, and I just you know, and I think I'm like, man, it's 2021. Why are you so bigoted and blind and dumb? You know.
So, I mean, Shayna, I agree with you. And like I said, I'm heated up. I'm reading these responses, but also because we are co-owners, me and Sally, I'm like, hey, check this out. And I got it ready to go. It's hit send. But I have to run everything by her, you know, because I don't want the backlash that she could incur from, well, your husband said this. Like, you know, we do have a large community reach because of the different things that we participate in. And I just don't want, I guess, anything that I say to negatively impact my family.
Right.
And the community stuff that I do. I don't need people feeling a certain way. Like if you're ready to donate to the Rise Up Foundation, and then you see that I make some comment on social media and you're like, I'm not writing that fucking check. Like, well, it's not about me anyways. I'm doing this for the kids, but some people cannot look beyond the comment and they take it so personal.
That's right.
Hey, including, when I like to post memes. All right, I like to brighten people's days. I create them. When I find ones that are funny, I like to share them because I, like many people on social media, you like to see that like hit. You like to see those laughing faces hit. Currently got a great one on We Are McHenry right now. It's a meme and it's a quote that says, I can't tell if these are gunshots or fireworks. And then it shows a picture of a house, which is an obvious upper middle class suburban home. And the joke is, obviously, those are not gunshots. It's obvious fireworks. The neighborhood of which you live is going to say that you should not really be concerned that these are gunshots. And it's 4th of July, right? And immediately someone takes it so personal. It's about their dog. It's about post-traumatic stress syndrome or disorder. It's all of these different things. And I'm like, should I take this down? Like, I'm offending people, and it concerns me. And
there's that old saying, if they can't take a joke.
Right. So, but here's the thing. I had to put a disclaimer and turn commenting off because all of a sudden with as many people that liked it and laughed, you start to get these people trickle in that are taking things so personal. And it's that this is a joke, and this is the joke in case it's gone over your head.
Social media has given everybody a platform for their belief or whatever they want to jump on that soapbox for. That's the unfortunate thing. Where if they used to do it on the corner, you know, back in the day, you'd be like, oh, that person's nuts, and just keep walking, right? But now you're like, wait a minute, you're wrong. I'm right. This was funny. Shut up. You know?
Point being, though, is that here I'm trying to share something that's funny.
Yeah.
And people are laughing at it and agreeing with it. And then you get the handful of people that are finding something wrong with something that is hilarious to me. So I could only imagine.
This is brilliant.
When if I was to make be commenting on obviously a more serious topic, to the serious level that people would take my commenting on it. So I just got to be careful.
Yeah, well, here it's I love America's Got Talent. I really do. Right. So they have this. He's Iranian and he's a comedian. You can Google this and find out. And he gets on and he just starts making fun of white people. Right. So he's like, you know, the pandemic was horrible. I'm going to ruin it. But, you know, pandemic was horrible for us stand-up comedians. All we could do is sit and watch Netflix. And what's on Netflix? Shows about mass murderers. And you're like, why are all mass murderers white? And, you know, so they show Howie, who's laughing. He's a comedian. And then who's the tall blonde model that's on there? Anyway, she's like looking like, oh, it seems funny, but should I laugh or shouldn't I laugh? Because he was making fun of white people. And he's like, I'm sitting there with my friend who's a white guy. He says, you can't say that about white people. He was like, listen, we're 14 seasons into this and they've all been white people. And he says, I think, you know, all mass murder. And it was hilarious, right? And I'm laughing. And then when they go through and ask the judges, she goes, you're really funny, but I wasn't sure if I could laugh at that. because he was making fun of a race.
Right.
She's white, and I'm like, you have to laugh at what's funny.
Yes.
That's if it's funny, it's funny.
Point of comedy.
That's the point in comedy, and not like, oh my gosh, should he be saying that? Yes, because it's hilarious. It was a great delivery. It was a funny joke. Yes, absolutely. It was brilliant, right?
I was just watching for the second time, actually, Dave Chappelle, the Mark Twain Award on Netflix, I think it is. And it's Dave Chappelle, to me, is one of the funniest comedians ever. I love the Chappelle Show, everything.
And he's a brilliant man.
He's brilliant because his comedy comes with intelligence, not just dick and fart jokes, right? Like, it's funny because it's like a reality based, and you can laugh at it. But one of the things he said on that was he's standing in the DC Improv where he first started, and he's on stage, and he's like, this is one of the last sacred grounds where you can say how you feel. And you can laugh at things that maybe you normally wouldn't laugh at. And if we start taking that stuff too seriously, then we're in real trouble.
Yeah.
Like, you should be able to, as a comedian, I mean, I suppose to a certain extent, you should be able to make fun of whatever you want to make fun of, I suppose. I suppose there's going to be gray areas there.
Don Rickles, it's before your guys' time.
Gosh,
this
everything.
He would attack everybody and anyone. He didn't care,
but with love.
But
it was equal,
and it was hilarious.
Yeah, another controversial comedian I love is Bill Burr. So he's kind of like the Caucasian, like Dave Chappelle. Like, they kind of both very controversial, but intelligent in their humor. Right. And you just got to be able to laugh at yourself and laugh at some things that are intended to be funny, and don't be so easily offended.
Right. You still know. You go watch some YouTube or TikToks with Richard Pryor.
Another one.
And that brother would attack white folk all the time. It's funny, and it's like the last one I saw, he's like, white people say the most messed up things when they get mad and want to fight. You prick. He goes, where do they come up with these things? I'm gonna get you, and I'm in tears watching this. I had to watch it roll through a couple times because it was so funny, right? Yeah. But it's just and you have to laugh at those things because you're like, oh my god, that's so true, And a lot of people think Jerry Seinfeld's very funny, but I can watch him and go, I don't get it, right?
Right.
But then there are some jokes that he does. You're like, that was brilliant. Yeah. That was really good, right? So there is that, and that's the way life is too. And I think and I'm just speaking on a term because I'm not a minority business owner, but I think you have to be a little bit more guarded with how you respond to things. And issues and whatnot, where me being a white guy, I can just be like, and it'll be
because you have the majority on your side.
Right.
So look, if the handful of people in our community that, again, go back to my high school days, the 0.26 Hispanic and the 0.8 African American in McHenry, if they don't agree with you, well, then the majority of the people in our community are not going to think twice about
You're
your
a
comment.
trendsetter because it's higher now in the McHenry School District. So
it definitely is.
Yeah, they came right. Follow you. Yeah. What a trendsetter! Absolutely. So, but I think that, and I think that's where a lot of Caucasian business owners don't think, and they don't see that disparity or the differences. Right. And I never thought of it as the majority. I was just like, it's just been accepted, right, or whatever. Or it's like, oh, that just can't be in count,
Yeah.
No, like you said, if he loses that side, the 3 or 5 families in McHenry aren't going to be enough to support his family.
Right.
I'll drive from Crystal Lake or whatever to help you, but it's still going to be a pay cut.
Right. That's going to be a problem.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing as a business owner that I don't. I think, and I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, hey, I represent the bank that I work for, and everything that I do reflects on that bank, and I represent the station. And there's always that fine balance for me with some of our shows to go, I wonder how the bank thinks about it, but at the same time, I'm like, well, if they've got an issue, they've got to talk to me about it.
Yeah.
But I'm very open with them about our broadcast stance and things like that. I was at a fundraiser for Craig Wilcox, a senator here, on Monday, and I had to be very careful on what logo that I would wear there, right? Because he's a Republican. He's a good friend of mine. That's why I support him. It doesn't matter to me if he's Republican or Democrat. If you're a good friend, I'm going to support you in your adventures. But when I said I was going there, even the CEO, who's my boss, is like, be careful, because again, when I step out there, I'm representing the bank as well. When I wasn't in the position or sitting where I sit in that pyramid, when I was lower in that pyramid, I'm like, whatever, what I want. But now you're up higher in that pyramid. You're like, okay.
Yeah. So and I'm just thinking, because you brought up the business, that you represent a company. So Health Markets Insurance is our big company, the nation's largest brokerage of insurance agents. Okay. So we're 1099s and independent contractors of that company. There have been other agents who contracts have been terminated, thus lost all of their compensation for the years of work, because they do get involved into political or racial things online. You're representing a company, even if it's on your own personal page, where if that gets back to them, you can find yourself into a lot of trouble. The alternative side to this was there was an agent who had made a comment on Twitter that works for Health Markets about Jussie Smollett, and his situation. And his comment wasn't even specifically about that situation. His comment said, he pulled a Jussie Smollett. And he's a white agent commenting on African Americans' Twitter feed. And he woke up the next morning to about 1,000 alerts on his phone where everybody took that racially inspired comment and tagged his home address, his phone number, tagged Health Markets Insurance Agency. I can't believe that you're hiring someone who feels like this. This guy's an obvious racist and bigot. And they had to they didn't actually, through some different people stepping in, he was able to keep his job, but they had to terminate disconnect all of his social media because they were tagging Health Markets. And
that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm not on social media.
Right. So again, what I see is maybe just a comment. Depending on how strongly someone feels about my comment, can definitely be blown up to where not only I'm negatively impacting the company which we represent, and then obviously negatively impacting my business.
After you said Chappelle, I just hear juicy smoothie.
All right. So we want to thank Tim Santos for swinging in. We're out of time. Come back anytime, brother. We absolutely love you. Thanks for tuning in when you do. Check him out if you need health insurance. You have questions about health insurance. Call Tim and Sally over at the Santos Agency Health Markets right downtown Green Street. Check them out. They do great stuff. I've done business with them. Absolutely brilliant. For all of us, have a great 4th of July. Stay safe. And remember, it's probably just fireworks.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thanks for coming.